Beautiful. Who's going to be driving first, you or your brother? Yeah, you can deafen if you don't want to hear me. Oh, wait, no, you can't wait, well, that depends on how you have it set up. You can't deafen, I think. You can mute, and you'll be fine.
Yellow flag ahead, be careful.
We're going to start with the commentary as soon as qualifying's underway. Like the title says, professional commentary. Well, beautiful. We're just waiting for the last couple laps to come in here until we get started here. Shouldn't be too long until qualifying's underway here. We are in the LFM Duo Cup at the Red Bull Ring. And, well, we're just going to be focusing on doing well in this Duo Cup here. We're joined by our brother Sven Matthijs as always, and we're going to be trying to do this together. We'll see how that goes in the end.
Green light, go, go, go.
And there is officially green now over on the qualifying session here. We have got 15 minutes to try and get as fast as a lap as possible. Just loading in the livery as well to ensure that we are ready to go. There we go, we are out now for our out lap. Going to be trying to set as fast as a lap as possible here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. The following is going to happen. We are going to be starting here with a lap or two in the 15-minute qualifying session before getting into a 60-minute race, which will also be a driver swap. So therefore, eventually we're going to have to come in, give the wheel to somebody else. We can sit back and relax here. At the moment, we are doing the qualifying here. And then in just a moment, it's up to Sven Matthijs to take it over if he wants to. We are currently doing the LFM Duo Cup, I believe it's called, if I'm not mistaken. I'll say it correctly, yes, if I am indeed correct here. And this is going to be quite a challenge yourselves. Well, everybody signed up with a teammate or two. So therefore, it is safe to say that the teams are all pretty stacked today as well. And we're going to be meeting quite a lot of other people as well, as we're just sitting here. Lots of people swerving, and then we suddenly have to hit the brakes there. That was probably not the smartest thing that their driver in front has done there, but we are at least going to be starting a lap here. We've got 12.5 minutes to set as fast as a lap as possible. And we are here at a very, very dark Red Bull Ring. Time to find out where that brings us. Right, it's going to be quite a challenge, I think. Try and do well as the field is looking quite competitive. We are in split 4, so we should be meeting people with similar track records as well. Time will obviously tell if that actually ends up being the case. It's always a little bit tricky finding your space here on the track, as it's quite a stacked field here, which of course is only a good thing. It is quite tricky.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
You have to try and Get out there, not get in the way of traffic. There's going to be faster drivers behind you, also slower drivers ahead of you. You're going to have to pass. How will you do it? Well, it's always a little bit tricky here. That is a lap invalidation there. Just the track limits being very, very strict, of course. So therefore, well, we are once again put back to the drawing board. This lap won't count. Obviously, have to make this time count as well here. The interesting part about this qualifying session is that we are also free to choose who's going to do the qualifying. Are we going to split halfway through, or are we going to have one driver do it? It is all for grabs, and it really doesn't matter what you do as long as you get those validated laps in earlier. And unfortunately, this one wasn't one of those, so we're going to have to try again later. The time's looking good though. 1:31.0 is looking rather competitive out there. Our drivers were currently a little bit faster as well, but yeah, we've got plenty of time to make some time up as we go. Even then, during the race, you'll notice the exact same thing as well. These right-hander are always a little bit tricky as well. Getting that exit speed is absolutely necessary. Downhill, well. Very lucky that in you can actually lock our cars as much as you can, as for example, racing. So then you most definitely notice that it is quite tricky to get out there. And well, I must say that it's looking quite good here. We gotta also keep in mind that we don't have infinite fuel here, so keeping that in mind as well. We need to be careful that we don't get invalidation on a little bit later. Time will tell, of course, what is going to happen.
Yellow flag in sector 1. Well done, mate. This has been your personal best.
True there, the personal best coming in. Puts us at P16 for the time being here. Plenty of time to try and improve on that too. So we are ever so slightly quicker so far on the lap here. It's very marginal. It's all going to come down to how we nail those corner exits here. We don't have to worry about fuel. We don't have to worry about tire management. That is a little bit wide. It cost us a couple tenths as well. Damage seems to be limited. Only 1/10 loss right now. Plenty of time to try and make that up here. Slower cars ahead as well, so let's hope that they don't get into the way. That would be rather unfortunate as well.
Yellow flag ahead. Watch out in front.
Making our way through here. This part of the section is always a little bit tricky, of course. This circuit is definitely one of the challenging ones out there as well. Looks deceptively easy. It's actually rather the opposite. Making it through full throttle through the last corner, of course. This is where you get most sense out of it. And that would be quite an improvement here already. Putting us at P9 for the time being. That would be a great starting positions here. There is still plenty of time to keep going as well here. Sending into the garage then. It's either to do a driver swap now or just go out again. That's up to you. Whatever the plan may be, time will tell. Currently set in P10. There's we've pushed down a little bit, and that LFM BOP has also added a tiny bit of weight into the car here to make the car a little bit less strong as we go. So that's also a little bit unfortunate, isn't it? Ah, well, that is how it is, I suppose here. Just getting out there again. Still Yamatis behind the wheel here, and After refilling up that car a little bit more again,
Yellow
we are
flag
free
in
to try and
sector
improve on that lap again. Yellow sectors are out. Behind us also a driver going a little bit too wide, but we are good to go. Nothing to worry about just yet. Making our way up once again. Same corner. One that's supposed to be very tricky. It's Loshgold corner. We seem to handle it ever just so well here. Obviously, there's a couple laps here. A couple corners here called after some very famous people. Niki Lauda, for example, has a corner name. That is the turn 1 we'll come into eventually. There's also the Red Bull Mobile corner, of course, which is named after the brand that this name has its name to anyways. Red Bull Ring, of course, is a track that was originally known as the Österreich Ring. Translation of that means Austria Circuit, or Circuit of Austria, and later was shortened, rebuilt, and named the A1 Ring. And then afterwards it eventually became the Red Bull Ring after it was named over, taken over by Red Bull's Dietrich Mateschitz, and he was then the one to name it the Red Bull Ring as well.
Yellow flag in sector 2.
Currently set in P15. We just got a notification that the next one won't count. 15th position as of now. We're looking to improve on that. Just ever so slightly. Did a bit of a slow exit there, but doesn't really seem to do that much, so we are good for now. Once again, the right-hander coming up, and then afterwards it's just about getting on that throttle but without going too wide. Otherwise you are in massive trouble. Seems to be a good exit for now, even though this lap won't really get as much improvements in. There's 4 minutes to go here, so with a bit of luck, be able to do 3 extra ones. Now the curve looked solid, but the exit is a little bit unstable there. See, that costs us a fair amount of time there. It's not too big of a problem for now. But improving on this one will be a little bit tricky then. Luckily we have plenty enough fuel to stay out there, do our own thing.
Yellow flag, be careful.
Yellow flags once again out in the sector that we are in, which just shows how tricky of a track this really is, to be honest. Delta's looking good so far. Currently set in P16.
Lap invalidated. Losing time in sector 3.
There it is. Next lap being validated isn't helping us either. So not much we can do now apart from just reset in the pits and hope that we can try and fix something here. But it's going to be quite difficult to do. 2 minutes left here. Setup changes coming in here. Obviously, we're going to have to get ready for the race eventually here. And the race setup tends to be a little bit less aggressive. Sometimes also taking other few things into consideration, like the tire degradation. Now, that won't necessarily be a problem on a 1 hour race, depending, of course, on your skill level. But generally speaking, you'll see that people go over and do a swap around the 90-minute mark. That's when they decide, you know, if a race is that long, we'll come in halfway for tires. But even then, it is completely up to them, of course. And there really is no right or wrong here. All depends on what you like. Just making sure the setup is right in place. Currently still a good stable position here. P17 isn't too bad at all. And honestly, considering that most of the drivers will probably crash out anyways, it is LFM after all. We honestly should be fine. Time will tell, of course. Just waiting for everybody to come in there. Everybody's allowed to finish up their own. And you should be getting ready to go here. Now it's up to us, you know, when do we decide to come in here? When do we swap drivers? Or do we even want to, you know, risk it and let somebody drive 50-50? Or are we going for somebody driving the rest apart from 10 minutes? It's all up for plays here. There is no wrong here at all. There we go. The session has now officially ended here, so we are going to get ready as soon as possible for this 1 hour race that we have here over at the Red Bull Ring. It's going to be interesting for sure, because how does this one end up faring? Always a little bit tricky to try and get right, of course. Three and a half minutes until we get going here. There is one mandatory pit stop, which needs to be within the pit window. I'm currently unsure how long that pit window actually is, but that does change up things a little bit. And then apart from that, we also have to take into consideration that we have to do a driver swap here. So it's up to you whenever you do it, as long as you do it within the window. Generally speaking, the windows are relatively safe, so it's not like you have to do a exact 50-50 here. You need to get some kind of reserve in as well. But really, it's up to you what you want to do here. No right and wrong. Personally, I know I like to go in last. That way you have no reason to deal with the more tricky side of things. Obviously avoiding the chaos at the start, which is obviously basically guaranteed at this point here. And that's something you're going to have to take into consideration as well. Currently almost ready to go here. Shouldn't be that long. 2 minutes to be exact here. And then it's up to us, who do we want to start with? And who's going to do the chaotic start, and who's going to be focusing on recovering a little bit more later, if necessary, of course. One and a half minute here at the Red Bull Ring until we get underway. Exciting stuff here, right? You need to take into consideration, what is the rest going to do? When do we pit well? And when is there an opportunity? You generally tend to just plan things out, but in the end, you want to be wondering, does it even matter? Because you got to think it through, right? When is the right opportunity? You can't really plan whenever that is. So you're just going to have to see what the rest does and kind of base it off that as well. That's generally what I would try and start doing if possible. But it is difficult. So, yeah, well, time is about to start here.
30 seconds.
There it is, the 30-second mark. We are now into the car as well. And Matisse will be starting. Now we're about to find out here who is going to be starting us off here behind the wheel. No right or wrong at this point on. We're going to be starting with a rolling start as always, which means we first have to drive around for the first time, stay in the green area as well, which you can see on the screen. That's when we then decide to stay in there and get ready for a start, where we need to be below a certain speed to avoid getting a penalty in, of course. There we go. We are going to get underway here. There seems to be a couple drivers that we've lost already along the way. Need to try and get out there again whenever possible. And, well, so be it sometimes. Getting ready here within the green. Means we are ready to go. Looks like a lot of other drivers are kind of behind us. It's a bit tougher sometimes. Getting into our correct lane now. We're currently supposed to stay in the single file. Soon that means that we will have to double it up again. So there's going to be somebody starting to the next of us here on our outside in this case, as we qualified in the position, or we will be on the inside. Making sure we have the tires up to temperature. They're a little bit on the colder side, but that's obviously the tricky finger about those laps, right? There's not much you can do to try and keep them warm. Generally speaking, you'll see that people try to brake in hard and then try and accelerate again, or try and swerve their way through. Now just lining up here. There we are then, ready in our lane here. We got to keep to the right here. And pretty soon we'll have a limitation on how fast we can actually go. The timer's going to start running here. We are going to get underway with our first LFM Duo Cup here. Starting off here, getting our speed up to 70. So we don't go over it. We should just be fine here, but we got to be real careful that we don't hit that. And there is the green here. Let's see how well we get underway. It looks like actually we're already getting pressurized here on the right. Driver decides to back out of that. Amascadlan immediately. We have decided to go all the way up to the inside. We are basically crawling through the corner here. Eventually we'll have to touch the driver ahead of us just ever so slightly as well, but it really makes it through. It's always a little bit of a chaotic start here in these low fuel motorsports lobbies, but that's how they tend to be, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's very close racing that we're seeing. Making our way through here. It's just making sure we have the space here. You don't want to get your race ruined immediately, right? That would be the worst case scenario that could ever happen here. So we've decided to just take it easy now. Waiting behind the BMW here of Reiner. We see that. It's also one of the drivers that we're going to be facing a little bit. And then later on, might see that and our teammate swaps into the car. And we might face two of the drivers for the same team here. Obviously, we are teamed up here with Sven Matisse as well. Entering the team as brothers and teammates at the same time. It's always good to see these kind of brotherly bonds between the drivers. As it looks like Matisse is just going to get on the throttle quite nicely, but the BMW is driving away rather quickly. It's up to us to try and get as close as possible, or at least stay with him for the time being, and let Sven can do the work here. A slow car ahead, that's generally speaking never a good sign, but what's actually happened? I don't really see too much happening here at the front, so I don't think anybody was actually driving slowly there. I think they just need to find their way in there. It is tricky. Going onto the throttle again. Rather early here. We have actually catched up to the driver ahead of us here. And he was rather slow actually. A little bit too conservative on the brakes. Immediately we have a car move to our left here, but we don't not necessarily have to leave him the space. Getting in there, braking late, hoping to outbrake the BMW here. We're going to be on the inside now. He is still entitled to space. However, it looks like the exit's actually rather good as well. So for the time being, Reiner will stay ahead of us here, but we keep our head down, knowing there are still plenty of opportunities to come as well.
Car on the right.
Are moving down our inside here, and make sure that we do that cleanly here. There was a little bit of a bump there earlier. There was contact between the two. Now we're just gonna let him by for now. We'll get an opportunity again, but when you have these kind of drivers that are just risking it all, you don't really want to be fighting them, do you? You just want to ensure that you can stay out there, try and survive. But that's rather difficult actually from time to time. A small mistake there. That was another driver to come through. That was the Ferrari that we were fighting with since the beginning of the race. Our drivers are looking for opportunities here, but you want to make sure that you go free wide here. There's very little space for us, so we kind of have to go wide, and ascend by the BMW as well makes it really hard for us to get through the corner, but we manage. We do fall back all the way here. We now find ourselves in last position temporarily. That's not necessarily a worry as of yet here. We've got plenty of time to make it up. We're going down the inside here of Cadillem, but we have to space him as well, and he's going to have that exit over us as well, so he's able to ever so slightly get away here. But man, it's tricky out there. Conditions aren't helping here, and there's a car facing the wrong way as well. As Goria was gone off into the background and finds himself all the way back there. Also means we are no longer in last position, as he is currently 2 seconds behind us already here. Obviously, it's kind of bound to happen, right? Generally speaking, you'll notice a lot of these drivers are willing to risk it all, and generally speaking, you want to be doing that. A good opportunity here on the sand, but Zimaro gets the better of us right now. We are able to once again keep chasing, and now obviously we've got that slipstream coming into the next corner as well. Just gotta nail that exit. Another slow car here, and luckily he taps the brake. Are able to avoid him, but the yellow flags are out as well as a result of that car going the wrong way. small mistake and your entire race. We know that by now. It's just the harsh reality.
Well done,
Having
mate.
to
Personal best.
take that into consideration. I mean, do you want to be risking it all here in the beginning? I don't think so. There's only 5 minutes of pause during the race so far. There's still plenty of time to try and make up a position if you want to. As we slowly but surely see that Kazirao is actually moving all the way back here. He's actually getting away from us. Also losing place to the time ahead of us. But now this driver is so slowly all around. BMW has no choice apart from going wide. Looks like the car ahead of us ever so slightly gaining on the BMW. The BMW ahead of us is in trouble here, but Ferrari of Catalan is struggling for pace and also struggling for gripper, so there's not much we can do apart from wait for a mistake for him to happen. You don't want to be risking it, do you? Small mistake there on the exit of the corner. We are able to keep it in a straight line, but we do see the cars just driving off here. Now we also gotta make sure that the driver behind us doesn't catch up. Igor obviously had a pretty bad start. He found himself facing the wrong way. There's another driver that's gone off here. That is the McLaren of Herring facing the wrong way. You see the other car waiting for him. So Sper Schneider definitely was involved in that action. Otherwise, you, generally speaking, wouldn't be slowing down for that, would you? He sent out the inside for the BMW, ends up backfiring. He was looking from very, very far behind. Obviously, that means he kind of overshot the corner a little bit there. So we are trying to drive away from Gory here, but Gory is rather quick, actually. So generally speaking, we aren't safe here just yet. We have got plenty of time to try and get away from him, however. Into this larger straight we go now. See the cars behind us are able to slipstream from each other, whereas we are just kind of driving in no man's land for the time being here. Our Mercedes finds himself just in the kind of lonely 25th spot here. A couple drivers are behind us. Those were generally drivers that made big mistakes, or were just fairly unlucky in the beginning, and we've just been able to keep it slow and steady for now. Obviously, we are matching that pace of the drivers ahead for now. We are slowly catching them, in fact. I think it's mainly going to be focusing on making sure we don't get to the same fate as others do here. Then it might just become really, really, really tricky here. On the main straight here, getting ready to go into the Niki Lauda curve. The personal fastest lap has been set now. And that always feels nice, right? That gives you a little bit of a confidence boost, setting your personal fastest laps. Now you can see just how much time we're able to gain by braking later than the drivers ahead of us. Obviously, they're kind of in that train where you have to take into consideration that everybody has a reaction time and not everybody has the exact same brake markers as well. So that's going to be quite nice. Then still chasing McLaren ahead of him. We are now also getting involved in that battle here, where Sper Schneider hasn't been able to catch up to us just yet.
Gaining on the car ahead in sector 2. Well done, mate. This has been your personal best.
And on on that throttle as early as possible. Now, the Ferrari ahead of us is doing fairly similar lap times for now, so we're not really able to get any closer. It's mainly going to be, when do we start making that move over? At the moment, we're just ever so slightly too far away. We are gaining every single time. Let's look at how close we are right now. Getting by is actually the trickiest part as we lose control of the back end of our Mercedes. Now I have to wait out and rejoin the track here. Is a little bit unfortunate, and that also puts us back into second last position as we have seen a disconnect over time as well. So there's now only 28 drivers remaining in this race. It's not too good. That's just how it is sometimes. This puts us in an awkward spot, right? Because first of all, you've got that positive note, right? You are able to just focus up, if you want to, on the lap times now. And if that is a big send from behind us once again, Herring is looking to get closer by as soon as possible. We're not interested in fighting that. We want to find ourselves all the way at the front here, and that's what we're going to be focusing on there. That is actually rather tricky now. Coming around the same corners where we had a small mistake on the exit last time round here. Generally speaking, hasn't been too big of a problem here, but Herring is catching fast. He was one of the faster drivers, that makes me think that then at least. Obviously he's found himself all the way at the back there thanks to some instance. We saw him facing the absolute wrong way, of course, and unfortunately we are also going to be doing the exact same thing. So just saw it in the Twitch chat as well. Thank you for the follow, Swift Snips. Very much appreciated. As we make our way over to the Niki Lauda curve here. Herring has passed us once we had that little slip up here. Second time we've kind of seen a slip around that area. That was obviously one of the trickier sections here. It looks rather easy, but actually it's quite deceiving. There, once again, you can just see those angles that you have just make it so tricky here. The only driver behind us is Nicole, the driver number 29. I thought he had disconnected a little bit earlier, but no, he is still out there. He is still doing his own thing. A bit too wide there. And now struggling for grip as well here. Track limit warning as well. Obviously we didn't gain any time, so that won't count towards a penalty here. Not necessarily the biggest problem in the world for now. Making our way into the last two right-handers here off the track again. Going a slight bit wider. Now that is still allowed within the track limits here, so we're using the absolute maximum of the track whenever possible. And here you just want to make sure we don't get onto the grass too much here. We managed to avoid that for now. It's a Niki Lauda curve. We are still ahead here. We're once again just on the outside of the track, but we are pushing it to the absolute limit here whenever possible. seems as if Herring is ever so slightly just driving away from us here, but at the back we do find Nicole here. Nicole is driving real fast in a Lamborghini, a car you don't really get to see very often anymore here in Asetto Corsa Competizione. You can see that he is approaching rapidly. He's going to trying to send it down the inside here, and we have to leave space there, but that's mainly because he really sent it there where he shouldn't have. And finds himself crashed out again. That is a little bit tough as well, because I don't think we're actually able to do much about it. You don't expect the player to dive from the inside there so aggressively. He's now all the way back. The yellow flags were out as well. See, as a result, it's just that little bit tough thing coming in as well. It won't help us with the safety rating either, and obviously the incident points do end up counting in the end, so we want to take that into consideration, of course, whenever possible. Would rather not have them if that is an option here. No time gained here on the track limits again. It's the same corner. We are just pushing it to the absolute limit, but didn't gain any time there, so we are good to go for now. It through. Things are looking good so far. We've obviously got it all to do still. A very large comeback would be required to try and get there towards the end. It's just how it is sometimes, right?
Yellow flag in sector 1.
Obviously, we are now nearing that 40-minute mark as well. The pit window isn't open just yet there. It's going to come in. I think it's going to be at the 45-minute to 25-minute mark, but at the moment we have very little information on that as well. And I wonder if that's also going to be the call to repair some of our damages, knowing that we're going to have to come in anyways. And we need to refuel anyways. Well, that kind of depends, of course. Actually, we don't need to refuel. We don't want to technically, but we might as well, because it may take some extra time here. As it appears that the live stream feed here in front of me had crashed for just a little bit, but we are back. Hope that wasn't the case on your screen either. That is a little bit tougher. You can see that our lights are not having a great time either. Those were damaged in the incident as well. Driving around in the dark, not something obviously you want to do if you don't have to. The absolute limit there. Struggling to get the car around. The faster Lamborghini is once again up to us. No time gained on the track limit, but he is right over us right now.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
It's just, what do you do here? Just let him by? Do you just accept that he's quicker, or what is the call? It's always rather tough here. Plenty of options. Seems to so far be good for now, though. Just doing our own thing. We don't really need to worry about too much here. It's just about the lap times now. Nobody getting in the way for us, and well, the front drivers are catching to us, but at the moment that's not necessarily worrying as of yet, especially when we can pit over and just let them all by for now as well. Hope that they can create that gap. I'm sure that we don't get in the way for them, and hope that they don't get into the way for us either. That would be the absolute worst case scenario, of course. See, you are also wondering, right? How much more can you try and get out of the car now with the limited damage? Slapping around and around is showing that we are ever so slightly slower than the drivers ahead of us, but those are generally speaking fast drivers, where we had that problem that the damage isn't helping us, and the drivers that actually crashed were the ones ahead of us originally, making it just real tough. Then he spins around, obviously go on up in the end. It's a shame, really. Here once again we go a little bit too wide. Make it through. Obviously it doesn't help with the damage, right? The thing that you have to keep in mind for now is the fact that you are always going to struggle, even if your times aren't perfect already. You've also got, now that you have to take into consideration that your aero is obviously taking quite a big hit there. Just mind your damage for now. Luckily the suspension ended up being quite alright here, so now we are just fine. Obviously we are reaching that timer where we're soon going to get to the halfway mark here. We'll get a notification once the pit window is open, and then we can try and swap over. So right now it is obviously Matthijs behind the wheel. So Matthijs is ready and waiting for us as well. And he can take over whenever he feels like it, as long as it's within that pit window, of course. That is the only requirement. It makes most sense. Try and get only swapped around only once, but it is rather difficult, of course, to get it right. Making our way in over it. You can see now in the background as well that the drivers behind us are slowly but surely just coming in there. Obviously, with the blue flags, they're gonna have to come by us. I think the correct call for now would be try and get into the pits as soon as possible whenever that pit window opens, hoping that it is ready soon. That way, ensure that you don't have to get out of your way too much. Slow car up ahead, that is the driver of Nico, so ever so slightly an opportunity to catch up to him. You are still rather far away, of course.
The pit is now open.
As now the pit window has come open as well. It's up to us to make the decision. Do we come in we stay out? No matter what you do, there's always a decision that's going to impact how the race goes for you. Generally speaking, you want to be coming in now.
Car coming up behind. Watch out.
And the calls are also being made. Gotta get that pit window in. Obviously, we are allowed to accelerate here still. We should get up to 50 before the marker here. Make sure that the select driver thing is selected on. Otherwise, you can't do the swap here. There it is now. Pairs can be done as well. It's gonna be quite a big time though. But yeah, that makes me think there is a little bit more damage to the car rather than just the bodywork. Come in, engine is off. There it is, control is now being locked out, which means that Jan-Matthijs will be moving over to a more relaxed position on the couch. And then it is up to Sven-Matthijs to finish off the job here.
Mandatory stop. Is that clear?
There we go. Sven-Matthijs into the car. Just gotta get that engine started and get on the way. So the drivers still have plenty of time to try and come in anyways. It's up to them whether they want to make that call or not. Of course here. Well, what is it gonna be? When are they getting out there? Seems like right now we are ready to go here. There's been a tire swap. There's been everything you need. Now it's just a matter of focusing on the rest of it. 32 minutes of driving. We now find ourselves in the middle of the group, which is obviously less than ideal as well. So no matter what you do, you always find yourselves in a difficult spot, really. That throttle as soon as possible. You just want to make sure that you don't get into the way of the other drivers here, as Sven-Matthijs is now going to be finishing up his first lap of the day. There we go, roughly 40 minutes remaining in. The blue flags are out, of course. When you get close enough, try and get around. See as well, right? Maybe you can try and use the drivers ahead of you to your advantage, right? The driver ahead of us is a lap in front, but he's still yet to come in as well. We've had to try and get all that damage repaired, of course, which was a little bit unfortunate. That has kind of pushed us back a little bit more as we were hoping for. That's just how it is sometimes, of course. Making our way in here. The drivers now breathing down their necks. It's never easy, is it? Coming in there, a little bit shaky on that exit as well. We noticed that as well when we had Jan-Matthijs still in that car. You just kind of see yourself having that fortunate spot, really. It seems like we have coped well for now here. Currently stood in between Vogt and Biro. Vogt is ahead. Biro is behind us. Make it through. One of the cars have gone wide. That is Biro, who has gone ever so slightly too wide. That's going to cost him quite a bit of extra time. I must say, it seems like we are coping well. Just focusing on the lap times here, and the results will come eventually. We know that as well. And it's actually great as well, because you can now follow the faster cars around, see where you're losing a lot of time. Right-hander coming up. We seem to handle it just well. Sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves here. Brake early enough in time. That is a must-have, of course, but it's really hard to get any closer to the faster cars ahead of us now. You don't want to be getting into the way of Engel either, because he's actually, believe it or not, in a position where he is already almost a lap ahead of us here, while having served his mandatory pit stop as well. So have we, which is a little bit tough as well. You can see how much he is currently tapping on. He seems to be really fast out there. Not much that can be done about that for now. Just gonna have to let him go. Engel is gonna come up eventually here, but at the time we are fine. Right-hander coming up here. Now you can see Engel's just getting ever so slightly closer to us here, but it seems like the exit for him wasn't ideal either way. Now you can just see him disappear into the distance. Obviously we are able to accelerate ever so slightly faster than he is. We have that space for now. Not necessarily a worry for now. And time will tell to see if we could make some time back here as well. Would be lovely.
The window is now closed.
window closed. That means that there's now no reason for everybody to come in again. Steiner was still in that pits. I hope that he hasn't done it too late. That would get him into troubles, of course. He currently is that race leader, which is a little bit tough as well to see on his side. Ludwig is not too far away from us here. Obviously, BMW ahead of us here. He's a driver that is on a different lap than us here, so he might get into the way of us pushing a little bit closer. And with 23 laps to go, a bit too wide on the exit there. That will lose us some speed here, but no problem as of yet here. Sven's just got to keep his head down here. We now is quite far away, and we are still quite far away from the BMW that is actually stood in the pits for now. So Ochreiner probably has had an incident or something along those lines, because there is no other reason to be in there. Maybe a refuel, what can it be? It's just rather interesting to see that he has decided to come in here. The driver ahead of him is the driver that's got a 30-second stop and go penalty as well, so he's losing quite a bit of time. Quite interesting to see how that one will play out. See as well that we are just quite far away still from Ludwig here. So running now is behind us. Stop and go cleared for the number 14. That was Galant. That was the driver that was into the pits and had to take a hit just a little bit earlier, of course. Very interesting to see that take place. So unfortunate really that the incidents have gotten the better of us here. It's made it real tough, right? Want to try and get a better result out of this. There is still 20 minutes to try and make up some time. But you also have to be realistic. Knowing that you are 2 laps behind, that is quite a big margin actually. Galant well Still finds himself ahead here. However, obviously we are now ahead of Hochreiner. Hochreiner would love to catch up to us, and that's obviously going to be the main goal now. Defend up from him, so we can call this a result and call it the day that way. And no, it isn't easy. We know that. Just how do we approach this now? Because there's not much you need to focus on apart from the back markers, really. The back markers are rather dangerous, of course. Want to ensure that nothing bad happens here. Doing that is not easy, is it? Obviously, I've got it all to play for at the moment. Gotta admit it that we are now looking quite alright, if I say so myself, but it's also quite frustrating, right? There's not much potential left at the moment. There's just like so little that you can actually do. Try and get that little bit closer. Anything you can take, you will take. It's just you're reliant on somebody else making a mistake here. At least the harsh part of the race for now. Just got a message as well here. I just only read it just now. It was sent a couple minutes ago here. Sven's currently driving in a mode that he actually hasn't driven in before in terms of camera, as he was using the helicopter by accident. That's not any easier, I can tell you that much. But oh man, that doesn't help your chances and a good win either, does it? Oh man, what do you do, right? Just everything adding up here. It's just making it real difficult, isn't it? And now, well, perhaps an opportunity will come, but at the moment it doesn't really look like it, does it? Drivers ahead of us are just a little bit too far gone for now. Now 15 minutes left on the clock here, 3/4 to the race. The order is as follows here. Skellan still ahead of us here. And to me it appears like there is still a good opportunity to try and bounce back here. How do you actually do that? It's quite tough, isn't it? There is a dive down the inside there. Luckily we were able to avoid it just about. It's just about the worst thing that could happen. obviously these drivers behind you, they're still racing. Makes me actually think things are quite well for the time being. Drivers behind us here. The fact that they're still racing is the thing that makes this so difficult, isn't it? Just want to try and keep moving whenever possible. Try and get up there whenever you can. I honestly don't know where there is to gain. Obviously that safety rating is rather important, so you want to try and avoid getting into any action that way whenever you can. So it's good to have that to your advantage. It's going to help you later on as well. You have to realize that. So you also got to think about the long game here. Just how much more there is to gain, well, time will tell, I suppose. And we know it's not easy around here, right? We know that this is a tricky track. We also know that there's been a fair share of incidents that we weren't supposed to get involved in, but in the end, unfortunately, had no choice. And that is tough. I know there was more potential into this. And a small mistake could just be the end of that. Thing now that I find particularly interesting is, how do you cope with such races mentally? You know that you deserve more, you know that you could have gotten more. This is just what you gotta do it with. It's never easy, is it? I don't know. I don't think I would have managed personally. I feel like I would have had a real tough time in these races. Maybe, just maybe, there's something else possible here. Only time will tell whether that is gonna come true or not. And when anybody make a mistake that could shake up the entire round. That's what you're kind of reliant on, right? That is just very, very harsh right now. You know there is more up for grabs. And getting it out there, I think there was more potential to this. Even with all the mistakes being made and such. That's just how it goes sometimes, right? And such is life. A couple minutes remaining of the race now. There's 10 left on the clock. Plus, of course, that one lap that everybody's supposed to be finishing on. Everything else looking fine. The view is good. The things that you want to take into consideration for a longer-term race that you've got into your control, you've got managed, but you're still reliant on somebody else to do something that is going to benefit you. Maybe not benefit you at all. It is rather difficult, and they know that as well. There it is, another mistake as well, just to add a little bit more salt into that wound as well. Small slip up to make your race just even more difficult. Now for me, the biggest question into this is how is this going to affect you as an individual, right? You've had your incidents, but it's safe to say it wasn't all their fault. I don't think they find themselves in a position where they can really blame themselves, apart from, of course, maybe the small spins, the slight barrier touches, but other than that, that's not really a problem here. Everything else has been going rather fine. At least that's my humble opinion about it. You're wondering as well, was it the strategy? Was it anything? No, there just wasn't anything to it, really. Galant is just so far gone, and Trainer is also behind by a rather big margin. So that's my real humble opinion about it. This is actually not being too bad at all. I think this is actually quite alright. You're getting the maximum you can out of this. And just what more can you ask for in a scenario like this? Still trying to go for more. Of course, whenever possible. So maybe you never know what comes to you. 7 minutes on that clock. Anything's still possible, right? But you're reliant on some big mistakes, as I've mentioned before. For now, I must say, lap times are actually looking quite alright. That's really, really nice here. Looks like the stream has disappeared for me, unfortunately, here. That is a little bit of a problem. Right, looks like it's back, so the problem has now resolved. Sometimes you have these issues. Supposedly, it is what it is. At least I do know one thing. The game that we have actually managed to watch here has been rather entertaining. Delta's looking quite green here, so we are actually improving still, despite being not this far into the race. It's not all looking too bad here. Green is now gone. And what you can see as well that the field has thinned out in such a way that everybody's just kind of having a no man's land, really. Which of course is always a little bit tough as well, right? It's mentally just how do you get where you want to be? cross that line once again. Only a couple minutes left. It's just trying to work it out right now. Got a couple minutes remaining to try and do what you want to do. So make the best of it while you can. Delta's looking good, but then the exit is just fortunately not up to par. There was most definitely potential in that lap. He's getting that little bit closer. Where you want to be is always good. Yeah, the lap times are good, to be honest. How much more you get out of here? Just absolutely on the limit there. There will be a lap improvement coming out. At least that is something to celebrate for now. Rather good opportunity it is here. Try and improve as much as possible. Because even then, right, that's just something you could take into consideration. The more practice you get now, well, at least get that feeling you're bringing something home today. And even though the results were, well, dare I say it, slightly disappointing, there still is plenty to fight for, of course. Maybe not right now directly. More opportunities will come later on. I'm convinced that we still are chasing those missions that we've had before. I think we can do it. Absolutely. There it is. Just this one lap should be it. Depending on the lap time you can nail down. I mean, the thing is, right, if you think about it this way, the lap time on the current layout of the Red Bull Ring, and then I have to really cheat here because I had it right in front of me. I'm just wondering where it's gone. All right, there it is then. Yes, the GT3 lap time here is a 1:28. It's going to be quite hard to do that. But of course, never say never as well. Should be possible if you want it to be. Just gotta push to the absolute limit here. Now that is quite an old record as well. And generally speaking, you will notice that the old times don't always show the full picture, of course.
Right, man. Leader is on the final lap. Give it all you can.
There it is, indeed. The leader on the final lap. So we'll be able to get one more lap out of this. That will be it, as the leader is currently behind us on track here. Which is honestly to lead to a pretty good result. I think all around you've kept it clean for the majority of the race. Sure, you've had some small incidents, but they're, in my opinion, barely not worth it. Just a spin here and there. And then finishing the race in P27 is honestly not too bad at all here. You'll take it. There's nothing more possible, especially after the chaos that we had been involved in. Some faster drivers are also getting into contact with us, perhaps by being a little bit impatient on their side. That is just what you'll see, of course, happening from time to time. Just how much more is there to gain for now? Chances of getting any closer are very slim to none. Us finishing the lap rather quickly. Leaders just come in. That means that we are now coming to an end as well. Finishing up the first LFM Duo Cup here at Spielberg. In Austria, the result will be a P27 for now. Not really the max there was. Max we were able to get out of this, well, quite horrific start, dare I say it. But you know what? I think things could have been way worse if you look at it that way. I still think this is a reasonable result here to be considered. There it is then. P27, some disconnects coming in as we speak as well. Then I'm actually not sure what the call is here going to be. That was the entire race, of course.